For June 2026, I selected Pathwork Lecture 250, and the full title is The Meaning of Grace, Releasing Faith, and Living on Deficit, which I shortened to Grace, Faith, and Deficit. And I turned it into a 2-month project because it felt very rich and deep and difficult for some people, easier for others. So in week 1, the topic is the meaning of grace. Basically, grace simply is. Then why don't we feel it all the time? The same question can be asked of bliss. If bliss is our birthright, which is what the guide says, why aren't we in bliss all the time? And to some extent we are. The trick is how you perceive it. What would be the purpose of sitting in bliss all the time? What would be the purpose of appreciating the reality of grace alone with nothing else to do? So the idea is that we have things to do. And on this planet, which is termed a planet of duality, we are given opportunities to work out our beliefs and to work them out with a tack hammer and nails and dilemmas and problems, to run into the difficulties of working with others to the point of going to war with them. We are encountering our limitations as a human being, and if we are centered in our human identity, we can feel frustrated by that instead of saying, I guess those are the limitations of a human being. Instead, we feel defeated and angry and frustrated, and we want to reach for a way to control the environment. But that's from the perspective of existing solely as human beings. And that's why it's hard to perceive grace, is to some extent in the immature state or the less mature state, we may block the feeling of grace because it's fun to play with the toys. It is enjoyable to flex our self-will. It is pleasurable to feel emotion. It is challenging to develop our reason. It is, to some degree, fun to encounter problems if we have the hope that we can overcome them. It can be even fun to be overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed can be interpreted, and this is all about inner interpretation. It can be interpreted as being surrounded by a blanket so that you don't focus on the good or bad quality of the blanket. You enjoy the feeling of being surrounded. It satisfies a tactile sense of connectedness. I'm going to read a short 2 sentences on why grace just is. The guide says it exists at all times, penetrating all that is. It exists in the very nature of ultimate reality, which is thoroughly benign. In the end, when these negative experiences of being human are fully assimilated and lived through, they come around full circle to the light of love, truth, joy, peace, pleasure supreme, eternal life, well-being in all respects. This must always be the ultimate reality, and therein lies the grace. However, that's the full spectrum statement, and we are in the part that says negative experiences. We are involved with day-to-day, somewhat negative experiences of feeling that we have to survive and cope and deal with. So in terms of civilizations, even civilizations are representative of an arc of human consciousness, prior civilizations catered to the immature mind of the institutions as well as the individuals involved. They catered to a mindset that wanted things given to them. The infantile, just take care of me, just give it to me. How do I make things easy? Give me a solution. Tell me the simple approach. Basically, previous civilizations, you can use the phrase sound bite, as in the news articles. People could cope with a sound bite, but they might not be able to cope with the encyclopedic explanation that presented the nuances. Now, this is not uniform. Some people could. I'm talking about the mass populations that needed to be governed. And to govern a mass population, you need to keep everybody together. And so these immaturities were catered to. They are still catered to today to some extent. Versus the difficult work of each individual learning self-responsibility, self-governance, how to examine and take care of and analyze. It's a lot of work. Today in America, in elections, in some states, you get a voter's guide, and it purports to give you information on what you're going to be voting on. But these laws, these constitutional amendments, these proposals are written by lawyers. They're written favoring a certain point of view that may not be inherently obvious. So to interpret them well, you have to go to other sources. And it becomes a jungle of information nowadays with the internet. That's no worse than only having access to a biased point of view. But in terms of I need to make the decision, it can be overwhelming and confusing, and not in a comforting way, but in a way that prompts us to say, I can't figure it out. I'll let somebody else do it for me. So instead of I want to do everything and I want to take charge, we may allow somebody else to do that work because we can't figure it out. And all I'm getting at is that it hasn't changed. It has nuanced. It has refined. Civilization grew. We got better. Just like a 10-year-old deals with some problems, 20-year-old deals with some problems, 30, 40, 50, 60. We are always dealing with some aspect of life. It shifts over time. It changes perspective. There's a commonality to it. There's a commonality of learning. What this lecture suggests is that that learning process can mask the existence of grace. So, grace, what is it? Well, it can't be proven. It can't be held. It can't be bartered. It can't be bought. It can't be documented. And you can't just say, got it, now I move on. It's not a thing that we manipulate or control. And this is not pleasing to the ego, who wishes to control its environment. That's what we're used to. We're used to controlling our environment rather than being dictated to nowadays or feeling completely out of control. We are engaged. Grace doesn't engage. It's one of the ways you can tell the difference between the real self, higher self, spiritual callings and egotistical or ego-based is the ego has a forcing current and a point of view and a right, wrong and urgency driven by fear. Grace doesn't have that. So how can you experience it? We actually do in many ways. 3 examples I thought of were nature. Now, there's a particular thing about walking in nature, and that is that the rocks aren't working. And if they erode, they erode, and if they don't, they don't. If they crack, they crack. In terms of plant life, it grows, it gets eaten, it falls down, it is what it is. When we want a parkland to look like a certain thing, when we want to turn something into a garden or a lawn, we do have to work at it. But I'm talking about moments when you are in nature as it is. And that is a simulation, or it allows you to sense the underlying reality of the grace of nature, the grace of geology. The second thing I thought of is pets. Now, it is true that some pets will absorb an owner's anxieties or fear of fireworks, fear of traffic, and it will be nervous and anxious. But animals in general have a capacity to get over that. They let it go, they shake it off. And when we cuddle with them, they don't pick up all our details. And we can feel that. We can feel where the clock restarts every day, where unless it's a chronic thing, they don't remember your foul mood yesterday, that you were short with your temper. They don't hold grudges. They do become programmed, that's true, but they don't hold grudges. And they emanate just being, which is a form of grace. The third example is people who live in it, who really make it and make it. Let's see, I'm using ego words. People who allow it to be more present in their lives. For one thing, small children who don't have as much self-awareness, so they just are. And we're charmed by that. It's a relief to see. But another aspect of this is that you know grace when you perceive it. You know when someone walks in a room that they're able to hold something special. They bring something with them. They bring an energy into the room that wasn't there before, that's attractive, and not in an avarice way. Ooh, this is attractive. I can do something with it. But genuinely attractive. So think of your favorite example of that. But the charismatic spiritual leaders of history have, to some extent, had that. They telegraph what they believe. They telegraph what they're able to hold. And there's a place in us that wants it. So to some extent, grace is something we already know. We already believe in it, but we forget. And when reminded, we get a flash of it. Everybody I've ever spoken to, we can find moments of grace, awareness of grace in their lives. It may be fleeting, and that's what their complaint is. I want more. Well, that takes some work to smooth out and remove some of the turbulence in your life. And then what's left is filled with grace. So I want to do a small, short visualization for you. If you want to close your eyes, go ahead. This came up at a meeting the other day where I came up with an example because someone said they didn't understand grace, and I got this image. So for just a moment, imagine that you're on a boat, small boat, sailboat, in the middle of a very wide ocean. And the ocean is turbulent, and the boat is small. And the tools to feel that you can certainly ride this out are not at your disposal. And my image was of someone desperately clinging to the mast, wrapped around it, trying to hold on to the one thing that feels solid in a tumultuous world of ever-changing waves and danger. And just imagine that for a moment. You may want a different image, but there is likely something in your life that you hold on to as a symbol of what you seek, of what you want. Grace is it being able to see that the water is an illusion, as is the boat, as is your human vulnerability. Grace is the ability to breathe in and say, this is a trial, a test, an experience. This will bring something forward in me that nothing else would. I will see parts of myself in this moment of terror that I wasn't able to see before. And after the situation is over, whether I live or die, the learning I will keep. So just breathe into both at once. The dangerous, tumultuous situation that threatens you with life or death, doom and destruction. And it's as if you go down a mile deep into the water where it's still. Or 5 or 10 miles up into the sky where it is still. And those realities exist at the very moment of the danger that you're in. So why would we be in the danger? And to repeat, there's something there for us. There is an opportunity. Now, I like to joke a lot. I like to use hyperbole. I like to use childish examples because it breaks through the verbiage of abstract spiritual talk. I find the guy does that a lot. I do it to an extreme, perhaps. But the idea is you're not going to get it until we dump you in that situation and you find out. So we're going to assist you because you asked us to. We're going to assist you, says Spirit. And we're going to help you realize something. And this is the scenario that is most opportune for you to learn something specific. Now, there are many things to learn. There's a lot of overlaps. I'm speaking very singularly of one push, one opportunity. That we are working in collusion. We are working in concert with Spirit. There's a part of us that knows and says, this is a great idea. I will learn something from this. Sign me up. But of course, you can't learn from the lesson unless you feel something else. So there we are, hanging on to the mast, tossed and turned, thinking any moment we're going to drown. So what I did in the visualization with the person I was helping was I said, well, suddenly imagine that you're a mermaid or a fish. What would you do? You would jump overboard because the sea is not your enemy. The sea is your safety. The sea is your home. It poses no threat. And that's what grace is. It poses no threat. And knowing that that is not an easy concept to get, I thought we would stretch it out, and I'm going to throw all kinds of miscellaneous stuff in, sprinkle all kinds of tools and techniques and methods and points of view, simply to stretch out the conversation so that you might have a better connection with what already is, the grace that you are in, and a better sense of your own faith. Now, that's not the topic for this week, but it is of the lecture. I noticed that there were 3 or 4 other lectures before this that dealt specifically with faith. It felt to me that tapping on the topic was enough at this time because I was attracted to the topic of grace. So it's a great lecture. I hope you read it. Pathway Lecture 250, The Meaning of Grace, Releasing Faith, and Living on Deficit, which is about those negative experiences. Thanks for listening.